And a lovely good morning to you. It's Chrissy from Eduro Learning, and today's topic is all about what does transformational learning look like in action, and how will you know when you see it? This is part of our admin series that we have been launching over the past few weeks. This is our last YouTube Live for that series, and next week we'll be hosting a special webinar at this time. It'll be Thursday, 6 p.m. in the Northern Hemisphere, and if you're in the Southern Hemisphere like me, it'll be on Friday morning or afternoon sometime. So please remember to check that out. Head on over to our edurolearning.com/events page, where you can find all the details of that webinar that's going to be available next week for free for administrators and anyone else interested in hearing us talk more about the topics that we've been talking about over the last week, including today's topic. And also you can find out more about what's coming up at Eduro Learning by checking out that events page as well. So let's get started with today's topic, which is, what does transformational learning look like in action? And you'll see me glance off to the side. I have my special sketch note, of course, and I will share that in the links for this YouTube Live a bit later. And you can also find it up on our Facebook account. So head on over to Facebook, Eduro Learning page, and you'll be able to get all the links that I mentioned today and our freebie PDF that we have that corresponds with this topic, and also you'll be able to see my sketch note as well. So I'm going to start my timer, and I won't keep you any longer than 15 minutes today. So, transformational learning, what is it? Well, it's really the anything that is project-based learning, challenge-based learning. It could be anything that you're already doing in your classroom that has technology slotting in, anything that is not along the lines of traditional learning. So if you are someone who has already been doing project-based learning or problem-based learning or challenge-based learning, the slotting in of the technology is really not going to make your classroom look a lot different. However, if you have been using a more traditional classroom environment, then the addition of technology, specifically when used to transform learning, it's going to look completely different. And we usually look at transformational learning through two really well-known research-based lenses, and that's the lens of SAMR and the lens of TPAC. I'm not really going to delve into those particular topics today, but our awesome free PDF that comes with this week's topic, which you'll be able to get from the link that will be underneath this video when we post it, that kind of delves a lot more into the SAMR model and the TPAC model and gives you a few suggestions and a few examples of what that can look like in the classroom. So you can get an introduction to those two pedagogical approaches. There's more information in the PDF about those. But what I want to talk about today is that there are 4 elements that we believe need to be present on a consistent basis for transformational learning to be in action in the classroom. So I'm just going to go through those 4 elements, and then I'm going to talk about the sorts of things that you can expect to see when you're looking at transformational learning that has these 4 elements. So element number 1 is access. And when we talk about access, we are talking about, I'm just needing to scroll down into my notes. We are talking about access to information, a huge variety of information. It's no longer the teacher at the front of the classroom dispensing the information. We now have the opportunity through the use of technology to get access to a huge variety of information and experts as well as our usual content knowledge. So that's an element that you're going to see the addition of technology brings into transforming the learning, that we are no longer bound by what we have in the books in front of us or the knowledge that the teacher has, because now we have access to a huge variety of information. So that's number one. Number two is that there is an ease of collaboration and communication, not only within the classroom walls, but beyond the classroom walls. So that means that we are being able to not only collaborate and communicate with each other in the classroom, but we can also communicate and collaborate with others beyond the classroom. And then we have element number three. And element number three is that there are opportunities for an authentic audience rather than just the teacher. We are able to go with lots of different audiences. We are able to have the outside world come in, not only locally, but also globally. So that's element number three. Element number four is that there's now going to be this expectation of student voice and choice. And sometimes what that means is the teacher feels like they are giving up control, but that's not the case at all. It's really more about student-directed inquiry and creativity. And so classrooms that truly embrace technology for learning feature all of those elements, those four elements, on a consistent basis. So just those four elements again. Element number one is access to a huge variety of information, experts in content knowledge. Element number two is the ease of collaboration and communication beyond the classroom walls. Element number three is an opportunity for authentic audience. So it's no longer just producing work or sharing knowledge to the teacher or fellow classmates. And then element number four is that expectation of student voice and choice. So more student-directed learning rather than teacher-directed learning. So how will you know when you see this transformative learning in action? So now I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can expect to see. And I have 7 things that you can expect to see when there is transformative learning going on in the classroom involving technology. So of course, the obvious number one thing that you're going to see, you're going to see devices. You may see a number of different devices. It really doesn't matter what the device is, you are going to see it. And we just have to keep in mind that just because we can see students using devices doesn't necessarily mean that transformative learning is going on. So we have to kind of dig a bit deeper into what is going on with those devices. The second thing that you can expect to see is that there is going to be individualized learning, because with the variety of devices, you're going to see students being able to work at their own pace, that potentially they could be working on different things. They're either going to be exploring things, learning things, or researching things, but they're working towards something with a specific goal in mind. And they're probably going to know what it is that they are doing and what it is that they need to do in order to progress further. And so you will often find that students have actually set their own criteria and assessment, either by themselves and then had it approved by the teacher, or it's something that has been designed or put together and agreed upon jointly between students and the teacher. So some of the other things that you are going to see is you're going to see that there is audience and purpose. And you would have remembered that I mentioned that earlier in one of the 4 elements, that there is opportunities for authentic audiences. So of course, this is something that you are going to see in the classroom that is transforming the learning. You are going to see students creating things or sharing things or doing things that can be audience, whether that were in a later time. It's just the students are sharing the results of their learning because the internet allows them to connect with other learners or even other experts in the field that they are studying. And it also means that any finished work is probably going to be some sort of product that is at some stage shareable. So that's 3 things so far. You're going to see devices, all kinds of devices. You're going to see individual learning, and you are going to see that there is an audience and some sort of purpose. The next thing that you are probably going to see is that there is probably going to be global partners. Now, while this isn't a requirement for transformative learning, it's definitely one of those key indicators that students are using the technology in new and informative ways, so therefore transforming their learning. So even though it isn't necessary for there to be a global partner every single time to do with the learning, you're generally going to see that most things do have a global partner. And whether that's creating a product together with a global partner, or whether that is just sharing already done work with a global partner and getting some feedback, or otherwise it's just we're sharing and letting the rest of the world see the work that we have produced. And it's just that by having global partners, it means that the walls of the classroom really have come down, and that our students are learning how to collaborate with others from all around the world, no matter where they are and no matter what the time zone is. So you could expect to see a lot of the time some global partners. The number 5 is a variety of resources, I should say, sorry. So along with a variety of devices that you might see in a transformative classroom, you're also going to see a variety of resources. So you could be seeing students watching videos, they could be talking with experts around the world, they could be researching on the internet, they could be looking for different perspectives on social media, they could be using and editing and recreating or remixing a variety of multimedia sources of information that they've come in, and most likely they're going to be doing any or all of these things at any given time, but it comes back to and relates to the individual work that they are focused on. So that's something else that you could be seeing. So far we have devices, individualized learning, audience and purpose, global partners, and a variety of resources. The sixth thing that you are likely to see in a transformative classroom, one that's infusing technology into it, is the creativeness for students. You probably don't think of creativity first, but there's so many ways that technology allows us to be creative and innovative. You'll usually find that students get very engaged in any tasks that require them to create, and it also gives them the opportunity to share their voice and perspective, and usually it's in ways that they've not had before. So you're going to see lots of opportunities or lots of ways that students are able to get quite creative. So that's something else that you can expect to see when you are looking at a classroom that's transforming the learning. And the last one is, again, it was an element that was mentioned in those 4 elements: access, ease of collaboration, opportunities for authentic audience, the student-directed inquiry and creativity. This area of what you can expect to see student-centered is that it's not that the student is running the class or the students are running the class. It's a truly transformed classroom is one where students are at the centre and they are able to make use of all the technology that's on offer. And so when I talked earlier about classrooms that are already using project-based learning or challenge-based learning or problem-based learning, that's already student-centered. And when you add in technology, it's not usually a very difficult transition. However, if you haven't been that way before, so in other words, you've had a very traditional classroom, then transformative learning is going to look and feel very, very different. There's just one last thing that I want to share with you before I wrap this up, is that not all technology-rich classrooms will look the same. There are still challenges in every classroom. There's still different things going on, so you're not likely to see the same thing happening in the same kinds of technology-rich classrooms at any given time. But as long as the focus is on transforming the learning and using technology to help transform the learning, and that the student is at the centre of the learning, then that classroom is on the right path for having transformative learning in action. So that's all I have for you on today's topic. What does transformational learning look like in action? Hopefully you got some tidbits out of that. As I said, we do have a free PDF that goes along with today's topic. It's called Redefining the Learning in the One-to-One Classroom, and it has all of these things that I mentioned today, and it goes a little bit more in depth and has some examples. It's an awesome PDF. Don't forget to go and click on the link that will be underneath this video or on our Facebook page, or head on over to edurolearning.com/events, and you will see and be able to follow through on all of the links to get all of the things that we're offering and find out what's coming up next. Hopefully you can join us next week for our admin series webinar that will wrap up this whole series of topics that we've been talking about for the last 6 weeks. We'd love to see you there, and even if you can't make it, it'll be recorded and you'll be able to watch it in your own time. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.